All right, A24-Studios, they've been wildly popular, won a couple of Best Picture Oscars for the movies that they've released and produced, but I want to go into the most underrated, seldom seen A24 movies. According to Letterboxd.com, these are movies I either really like or I love a lot, and I want to promote them. They've been released under the A24 label, and yet not a lot of users over there on Letterboxd have seen them. The rules here, these are not in an order of excellence for me. I'm not going to say that the number one is the best movie. I'm just saying that number one is the most underwatched movie, and I have reasons for people who watch this channel to watch these movies. Also, I'm not even going to look up what these movies are about. I'm just going to try to remember them, give you my impressions of them based on watching them recently, maybe in the past year, 2 or 3. And just for comparison, the most popular Letterboxd A24 movies are Everything Everywhere All at Once, okay? Then you have Midsommar and Hereditary, Lady Bird, Past Lives, The Lighthouse, Uncut Gems. I think people know that Moonlight, people know these movies. They've been watched by hundreds of thousands of people, are rated and watched over there. But these ones, some of them are down there in like the 20,000 watched range. And our first movie on the list has been watched by 142,000 people over there. So that's a decent amount, but frankly, almost nobody knows about this. I've tried to promote the heck out of this movie. I absolutely love it. I've taught it. I can rewatch it every day. It gets me into my soul, my heart, and so on. It's The Last Black Man in San Francisco. This is an arty, sort of high concept movie, great movie house. It's about gentrification, San Francisco, which has changed from the Harlem to the West, a very, very high luxury place. It's kind of a very messed up scenario, and it's one of the few movies, maybe the only movie I can think of that's about a squatter in a house. Now, technically, that was my number 11, so let's work our way down. Number 10, I really like this movie a lot. It was released a month before the Oscar-winning Best Picture, Moonlight. It seems to take place in the same universe, same world as that movie, but I like it a lot better. It's a road trip movie in a way, American Honey. I love this movie a lot. It follows a teenage girl. It's a lost youth in America movie. Of course, A24, like half of their movies, maybe more of those are lost youth in America movies, and this one is like Terrence Malick in a way. Shia LaBeouf plays, I think, a wonderful character, great acting performance, but he's a co-star here. The lead actress, I think she was an unknown at the time. Maybe she still is, but this is a very, very well done movie. It deserves to be watched. Number 9, Tom Hardy, a star of this movie, and it's a solo star, and he's in a car for the entire movie. Locke. I did a video on this movie. I think this movie is really, really, I don't know. To me, it's great, but I can understand why you can have a lot of annoyances with it. It's him on a phone, this character on a phone, as he's driving a car from a construction site to, I'm not going to give anything away, but his unfolding narrative develops with just phone calls in a car. Awesome single room movie. It's a thoughtful single room movie. Check it out. This number 8 movie, I didn't love a lot. I'm an early Americanist, and that I've studied and read all about this period of time, 17th, 18th, 19th century America. This movie takes place in it's almost too early for its own good historically, but still, First Cow, a movie that does have the first cow to go into the Oregon Territory in it, based on its title. It's not really what it's about. It's kind of a buddy movie. Not quite like this, but a la Dead Man by Jim Jarmusch. But this is a somber, thoughtful, lost in America movie, lost American dream movie. Here's another one like American Honey, and it's worth a watch. There's a lot of people who love this movie, and that's why I'm definitely telling you about it, even though it is underwatched. Number 7. Now, this movie it suffers because of the movies you could compare it to. 70s Al Pacino movies, mobster, gangster movies. I love the setup in this movie, and I think the performance by Oscar Isaac is, in fact, excellent. That's the movie A Most Violent Year. And what I like about this movie is it's Godfather Part 3, and I'm not saying it's that setup where the gangster is trying to go straight. He's trying to, in fact, he's inherited a company. That's the main character, Oscar Isaac character, has inherited a company that's been doing underhanded criminal dealings, and he's trying to make it go straight and correct. And he's in this world of both employees and other companies and the law, which do not almost allow this. It's a gritty New York City period movie, and because Isaac's so good in it, and because of the subject matter, I think this is frankly, it's for middle-aged adults. That's what I think. Seemed to be for me. I can't say that's not for younger people, but maybe you'll understand it a little bit better if you're 30s, 40s, something like that, maybe older as well. And the same thing that goes with my number 6 movie. I found this movie to be completely underrated as well as underwatched. It's Noah Baumbach's early A24 movie, While We're Young. This movie is from 2014, and it's about, in its own way, the difference between an older generation and younger generation. At this point, I think it's late Gen X, early boomers. I think it's late Gen X versus millennials. But I find this movie applies to today, 2024, Gen X or millennials to Gen Z, and how they don't relate at all in so many ways. The older couple in this movie, New York City documentarians, are with a younger couple. The older couple has no identity. They're lost. They're not sure if they want to have kids. They have no idea how to act in the world. They can't deal with growing old, which is interesting to me. I think this is a great subject matter and topic. And frankly, Noah Baumbach, he's a funny, realistic director, and his stuff seems to be honest. And that's what I like about it. It's an ethic in the movie. It's definitely Gen X, 80s, 90s Gen X movie ethic. It's coming into this movie as those kinds of characters from that period of time or older. I like this movie because it spoke to me. Look at my age. That's probably why. Number 5, I'm surprised this is underwatched because it's got Jesse Eisenberg, Jason Segel in it. The End of the Tour. Director James Ponsoldt, who does a sort of biopic on the writer David Foster Wallace, in an interview with him. Now, maybe people don't read anymore. I don't even care for Foster Wallace that much personally, but I found this movie to be poignant and interesting. Now, granted, I watched this on an airplane, okay? It's a small screen. Maybe that affected my viewing experience. Usually that affects it negatively, though. So I thought this movie it's one of those where a journalist is interviewing a person. There's been a number of those a famous person, a number of those kinds of movies. I thought this movie was extremely well done, and the character dynamics in this are excellent, and the portrait of Foster Wallace is poignant. He seems really interesting to me, played by Jason Segel here. I think this is worth a watch. Hardly anybody has seen this movie. Number 4, a dark, disturbing, post-apocalyptic movie. Another early A24 movie. Maybe that's why it's underwatched, but I like this movie a lot better than the average on Letterboxd. To me, this is a great performance here by Guy Pearce, who can play westerns. He would have been a movie star 30, 80, 100 years ago. He's got the face, he's got the manner, he's got the tough guyness here, and this is like if you took Cormac McCarthy and made him do a Mad Max thing, only you told him, you can't do the road, you got to do something way more specific than that. And it's nihilistic in its own way. It takes place in Australia, post-apocalyptic fare, stunning ending to the rover. I really appreciate this movie, but some people don't like it on Letterboxd, as I've noticed, yet it deserves to be watched by a few of you out there. Number 3 movie is an indie movie made for tens of thousands of dollars. Because of that, a lot of you young filmmakers watching this channel, Krisha, by the director Trey Edward Stolt, who did several, well, at least 2 other A24 movies, and here he does an older person, an older woman, visiting her family. She's been estranged from the family. I think she's been a drug addict. She's gotten sober, and it's a day in the life of, as this character, with a number of actors who aren't professional actors, of course. This is fascinating to me to watch. Always watch an indie movie, low budget, but it feels really poignant. It looks good, and I would recommend it for a lot of you out there who haven't seen this movie. And I would recommend this movie too, especially because of the musical score. One of the most experimental, interesting musical scores of any A24 movie, easily, even though it's so low budget. That's what I find fascinating about this movie, so go check it out. My top 2 movies here in the underwatched A24 movies are good to very good, and I can't believe many of you, have not seen them. So go ahead and watch these 2. These are the 2, okay? So if you're going to ignore all the things I just said, although don't ignore Last Black Man in San Francisco and American Honey. But anyway, the top 2 here are great in their own ways for some people. The second one I have here is Lean on Pete. This is a lost youth in America movie, an older boy, let's say a younger man, who has a terrible family life. He meets up with a horse trainer played greatly by Steve Buscemi, and he befriends a racehorse. A racehorse is not very good, and so I'm not going to give anything more than that away, except to say that this movie has a very deep and serious and fascinating human-animal relationship, and some devastating scenes. Okay, so you must see this movie. It's kind of a modern Western, kind of a lost youthful vagabond James Dean drifting across America thing. That's classic. It's lovely. Just go watch this movie. I don't have any clue why people haven't seen this movie. Now, what I just said, I don't have a clue about why people haven't seen this movie. That's definitely true of my number one. I cannot believe there's like 20,000 people on Letterboxd have marked this as watched. Why? This hasn't been hyped? I can't. It's A Prayer Before Dawn. Have you heard of this movie? I don't know what's gone on with it. It seems like I have a lot of young men watching this channel and following me on Letterboxd. This is a perfect young man movie. It's like a young British boxer gets thrown in jail in Thailand, gets caught with drugs in Thailand pretty quickly in the movie, 5 minutes in. He's in one of the worst jails you can imagine, or one of the worst jails in Thailand, certainly. And he's gotta learn to adjust to a horrible environment, and he's got to learn to fight there and to deal with language problems. One of the wonders of the movie, it doesn't have any subtitles in it, so you will be as confused if you don't know Thai or whatever language you're speaking here. If you don't know the language, you'll be as confused as the main character, because most of the words in this movie are in a foreign language you, or at least the main character, does not understand. Also, this is based on a true story, so this is not just made up. When you watch the movie, you go, a guy went through this, and I think there's a book it's based on as well, which I haven't read, so I don't know the difference between the book and the movie. But go see this, because this is like a fighter movie, a jail movie, a prison movie. You know, it might have a prison break in it. You're going to have to see to watch it, but it's got these elements of, I think, fascinating 70s movies. I mean, Clint Eastwood would have been in this movie had he been young enough, like in the 60s or something like that, you know. So go watch this, because it's going to get your testosterone going, but it's thoughtful as well. A Prayer Before Dawn. Now, go check out my Letterboxd list of A24 movies I've watched, 60 some of them, and I've ranked them. You can see where all these movies fall. Some of them are like 3-star good movies I won't rewatch. Some of them like 5-star, 4.5, 5-star movies I love. But this wasn't presented in order, as I said, so you're going to have to figure out for yourself what you would prefer to watch out of these. What are your favorite underrated A24 movies, ones that people haven't seen, any others that we haven't covered? And I haven't covered the horror genre here. Some of you might have 1 or 2 of those that few people have seen but you think are really good, so let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thank you. Have a great day.